Hey, what is up, phone dogs? Beau HD here, and today we have two of the freshest Nexus tablets. We have the Asus-made Google Nexus 7 and the HTC-made Nexus 9. We're going to be putting these two tablets head-to-head to see which one comes out on top. Both of these tablets are running the latest version of Android 5.0 Lollipop. I do want to note that if you guys watched my last video taking a look at Android 5.0 Lollipop running on the Nexus 7, yes, I did install the Google Now launcher, so all the missing animations I mentioned in the last video will be available here in this video, so this will be a fair comparison. I just didn't want to include the launcher in my last video just because I wanted to show you guys what Android 5.0 Lollipop looked like without any sort of pre-installed applications or anything like that. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that up. Let's go ahead and put these two tablets head to head to see which one comes out on top. Alright, so the Nexus 7 and the Nexus 9, in terms of build quality, these two tablets actually differ quite a bit, as first of all, the Nexus 7 is made by Asus and costs about $200, while the Nexus 9 is made by HTC and costs twice as much, starting at about $400. The Nexus 7 isn't terribly constructed, but it's certainly the cheapest feeling device of the two. It has a plastic build with a plastic soft touch back cover. I mean, it doesn't have a slimy plastic back cover like we saw with a bunch of phones and tablets in 2012. It was made in 2013, so we have a more developed matted finish instead, and it just feels alright. It's far from premium in the hands. The back plastic cover, I've noticed, sort of separates from the glass from time to time, especially when popping in a case, which, I mean, shouldn't happen. That alone just doesn't add a whole lot of value to the overall design, that's for sure. And also the buttons on the Nexus 7 are basically on the back of the tablet, which makes it a bit awkward to hold and find the correct orientation. But overall, the build quality is okay at best for a tablet. For a budget tablet though, I would say it's pretty good, but you know, if we compare it to an iPad or even some Samsung tablets, it's just okay at best, like I said earlier. The 16:9 aspect ratio with the 7-inch display makes it very easy to hold though in one hand, so I will say that. If we take a look at the Nexus 9 from a build quality perspective, first of all, it's designed by HTC, which is generally a high quality manufacturer, and you know, it really shows with the Nexus 9. The sides are flat and constructed with aluminum, and the back cover is plastic, but it's soft to the touch, kind of similar to the Nexus 7, but it definitely feels softer with a more premium finish. Although it is more of a grease and fingerprint magnet. It will pick up every little finger grease sweat you might have, which is pretty gross, especially if you look at your tablet at an angle, you will notice it faux show. One thing I really don't like about the Nexus 9 is also the buttons. They're basically flush with the sides of the Nexus 9, so it's really hard to press them, let alone find them. I would have loved to have them protrude and be more clicky, but they're quite the opposite. The Nexus 9 does have a 4:3 aspect ratio though, instead of a 16:9 aspect ratio, and I actually don't mind the change. It makes sense for a larger tablet like this to have an aspect ratio like that, but you really won't be able to grip it as well as the Nexus 7. Since it's so wide, your hand will basically have to stretch to hold both of the sides of the tablet with one hand. It's just not going to happen that easily. The display does vary quite a bit though in terms of specs. The Nexus 9 has a 1536 by 2048 resolution QHD display measuring in at 8.9 inches, while the Nexus 7 has a 1080p resolution HD panel measuring in at 7 inches. But you know, since screen sizes are different, they actually have a similar pixel per inch index. The Nexus 9 has a 281 pixel per inch index, while the Nexus 7 has a 323 pixel per inch index. So actually the Nexus 7 is quite a bit more densely packed full of pixels. Although I will note the Nexus 9's display is much brighter. Colors are just much more bright and vivid on the Nexus 9. Also, the whites are a bit more white than the Nexus 7 as well, and it's possible that it's due to the brighter display of the Nexus 9, which is noticeably brighter. But in terms of performance, since both of these devices are running stock Android 5.0 Lollipop, the difference between the two is very slim. To be honest, it's really not that noticeable. When I flashed the official 5.0 Lollipop ROM on the Nexus 7, I thought it ran smoother than the Nexus 9. It just felt like it did. But I did pick up the Nexus 9 and let it run through the same tasks and everything, and you know, it was really just as fast. The Nexus 9 though is rocking an NVIDIA Tegra K1 64-bit dual-core processor, clocked at 2.3 GHz with 2 GB of RAM. The Nexus 7 on the other hand is rocking a Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 Pro processor, quad-core at 1.5 GHz with 2 GB of RAM. So, you know, you'd think in terms of specs, the Nexus 9 would be way faster, but honestly, it's not that noticeable. I mean, the bigger display does require more power to push all those pixels, so it probably levels out in that regards. Basically, I wouldn't buy the Nexus 9 if you're looking for a big performance improvement though over the Nexus 7. It's just really not that noticeable. If you take a look at the cameras though, the Nexus 7 has a 5 megapixel rear facing camera and the Nexus 9 has an 8 megapixel camera, but don't take pictures with a tablet. Your smartphone is most likely going to be a much better option. The cameras on both of these are pretty bad. They're decent at best, but I'm really not even going to take a look at them. I mean, as you can see here, they are okay, and that is all that should be said about them. Battery life is also really not that great for both of these tablets. The Nexus 7 has a non-removable 3950 mAh battery that can charge fast since, it's smaller. It also powers a lower res display, so it doesn't need to be all that big to keep a charge going. But with that said, it is just an average performing battery. The Nexus 9 though has a non-removable 6700 mAh battery that is also just average. It takes a long time to charge since it's bigger and just doesn't have any turbo charging capabilities like the Nexus 6 Android Turbo. I know that's a Motorola thing, but come on Google, why not include it in the Nexus 9, especially since the battery life is just so-so. At least the Nexus 7 charges fast. I mean, you should be able to get through a full day of use if you use this tablet no more than about 6 or 7 hours of screen on time. If you play a lot of graphic intensive games or really crank up the brightness, you'll probably see, I want to say, around 3 or 4 hours of battery life, give or take. And so overall, here is my conclusion of the Nexus 7 and the Nexus 9. So if you guys already own the Nexus 7 and are looking to upgrade to the Nexus 9, just don't. Save your money and just wait until your Nexus 7 gets upgraded to Android 5.0 Lollipop. The difference really isn't that noticeable. But if you don't have either of these two tablets and are looking for a tablet to run the latest and greatest version of stock Android out of the box, then the Nexus 9 would be a great option. I mean, is it the best option out there? That's debatable. But it's certainly the best Google tablet available, and it's future-proof, so it'll support all of the latest big software updates for at least the next couple of years, I'm sure. Some of the pros of the Nexus 9 over the Nexus 7 is, first of all, the build quality. The build quality is awesome. It's not the absolute best, but it's certainly better than the Nexus 7. Also, the front-facing speakers, which I didn't really talk too much about, are definitely a nice improvement, and it's just nice to have audio that's facing to you instead of away from you. And the display is very vivid, and it's just nice to look at, even more so than the Nexus 7's display. And some of the pros of the Nexus 7 over the Nexus 9 is centered mostly around the fact that it's budget friendly. It's about half the cost of the Nexus 9, and also its performance is still competitive with many other Android tablets out there currently on the market, especially now that it has Android 5.0 Lollipop. But yeah guys, that is my comparison between the Nexus 7 and the Nexus 9. If you guys have any questions at all, be sure to let me know by leaving me a comment down below or sending me a tweet at BeauHD over on Twitter. But as always guys, I'm BeauHD from PhoneDog.com. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.